Can you see me, Katrina?
I can see you just fine.
Okay, awesome.
Kim's here, but I can't hear her. So,
Okay.
Kim, are you able to send a text or something and let me know that the audio's working for you? And okay.
I've never done this either. So at least
I was
that's
telling
awesome.
you the other day, I said, I am not a teacher, right? I am just, so this is.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
This is just, I'm just here to share what I'm learning through this whole process of becoming and being a real estate entrepreneur. It's been such a dramatic difference in how I do business now over the past 3 years, bringing investment into my business model and looking at it holistically, as opposed to doing retail and doing investing and having them be in two separate camps. So I took a bunch of notes about things that I thought are important to understand. Today we're talking about the straight flip. This is just a 90-day process, 60 to 90 days. What kind of projects work and pencil out for this strategy? And not only that, but what is it that has had me be able to put these kinds of deals together? And a big shift that had to happen for me was mindset. So anyway, here I go. I'm just going to go through my notes. So there's 2 things I want you to remember from today. 1, we are not crocodiles. And 2, give before you receive. And so first, let's talk about crocodiles. There's things that we do in life that are just like breathing, right? Things that are interesting to us or that we're passionate about, and it's just what we do as a hobby. And for me, I'm fascinated by, and I'm a perpetual student of human consciousness, neuroscience, and especially with a bent towards neuroplasticity. And so you'll find a lot of the way that I approach real estate, and a lot of way I approach business, relationships, and pretty much everything I do is with these things in mind. And so, like I said, let's talk about crocodiles. Compare and contrast us with crocodiles. I heard I heard Simon Sinek talk about crocodiles. So there's 2 crocodiles in a river, and a piece of an animal, a big piece of meat, comes floating down the river. And whichever crocodile is the biggest, the fastest, the strongest is going to get that piece of meat. They're going to eat it. The other one's going to go hungry. And then they just go their separate ways. And there's no hard feelings. That's just life. They have reptilian brains. They don't even have the ability to have hard feelings, right? This is just the way life is. And it's funny because as I was hearing him, this was a completely different subject matter, but when I was listening to this, what came to mind is people say, I've heard the term, especially in business, it's not personal, it's just business. And that's the thing that came to mind when I was listening to him talk about the nature of crocodiles. And we're human beings. We're something more than that. And for me, when it comes to business, life, family, relationships, it's all personal. I don't believe that there's really a huge distinction between it's not business, it's just personal. There's not a distinction between business and personal, especially if we want to build a long-lasting relationship with clients, with sellers, with anyone in our life. And mankind has survived throughout human history because of our nature, not because of our size or our brute strength. We don't have crocodile skin to protect us from the elements, but we are designed to survive and survive through cooperation. Through cooperation and collaboration. And we're our best when we face danger together. we're naturally built to cooperate and face outside threats and challenges, and also see opportunities because of how we work together. And when I say how we work together, I'm not just talking about fellow investors, fellow colleagues, and people inside our business. I'm talking about everyone. This includes the seller. This includes the person who owns this piece of real estate. They're not on the outside. They're not that piece of meat floating down the river, right? They are a part of, they're on the inside. They're a part of how we, who we collaborate with, and how we all find success. And whatever that seller's need is, whatever their challenge is, this is something that we face together. And I really believe this is negotiation. This is the heart of true negotiation, not where we've got someone on the other side of the table or they're outside, right? They're outside of our group. They're outside of who we are and how we do things. They're actually on the same side of the table. They are actually a part of exactly how we do things with the values that we do, where everyone should get everything that they want in any transaction or any interaction that we put together, especially around real estate in our business. So the reason I am talking so much about this is because negotiation is really the heart of everything we do. So over the course of this year, we're going to be spending a ton of time on negotiation. How do you negotiate? We're going to become masters at negotiation. You can't spend enough time. In fact, I think it's something that we all should be make a study and become masterful at for the rest of our life. I don't think there's ever an end point for this topic. And really, it's the thing that is going to distinguish you and set you apart from anyone else who's talking to a property owner, and that will have them connect with you and trust you and see you as the resource for helping them solve their problem. You're talking with them and you're interacting with them because they have a challenge, they have a problem, they have a need, right? And so who they trust and who they believe is competent and going to serve them is the person that they're going to entrust their business with, they're going to entrust the sale with, or that they're going to want to sell to. And that's really the key to anything, any opportunities that you're going to have. There's people out there, they make money. I think of them a little more like the crocodiles, right? They think any ends justify the means, or any means justify the ends, whatever that saying is. And they're like the crocodiles, the two crocodiles, the piece of meat floating down the river. And there's going to be transactions and things like that come together for people like that, but it's not long lasting. It's just a 100% transactional basis. There's not going to be residual, long-term, meaningful business that comes from that. And what we're really looking at is we're looking at creating businesses that have longevity, that are sustainable, that actually have the business coming at us, right? We're going to spend time filling our pipeline. We're going to spend time filling our contacts and our inventory. And we're going to put that work in up front, and we're going to do it right so that once that's in place, the business is coming to us. It becomes a referral basis. And I'm not talking just retail real estate. I'm talking your investment properties. If you treat that property owner, that client, that seller right, they actually will be sending business to you down the road. And they're on your team, and they want you to be successful. They want you to buy this property and make a profit. They want it to work for you as much as they want their needs to be met. That's what happens when they trust you. You give them reason to trust you, and you do your deals right. So first thing, we're not crocodiles. Second, give before you receive. And the reason I say this is, there's a lot of different things, philosophies and things that you hear, but I really do believe, and I promise, that you will get whatever you give, you will get back tenfold. Absolutely. And so with that in mind, I say, give something. You better make what you're giving good, and you better give with all you got. And so stop and think about something that you have in your life right now that is really good, something you love about your life right now that's meaningful to you, or that you're just really happy is there. And when you think about that and you have that in your mind, if you look back, you'll realize that this that you have is a direct reflection of what you've given in the past. It absolutely is. And so be aware of what those things are. And now look and see what is it that you want to have in your life, and create an awareness around what are you giving? What are you giving that's going to have that be a result of what you've given? And so Jim Rohn, there's a quote I heard from Jim Rohn, and I've researched this. I've heard that it came from him. I haven't found it, but he said, "The primal need of man is to be heard. The greatest gift is to hear." And so if we look at what are we giving in our relationships? What are we giving in our life? What are we giving to our clients? What are we giving to the people we meet that have a piece of property that we're there to help them find a solution to whatever that challenge is, or whatever it is they want to do with that property? Well, let's start with the greatest gift is to hear. And as brokers and investors, we're really in a unique position to bring value to anyone who owns a piece of real estate. As we fill our tool belt with different strategies, different tools that will help them accomplish what they want, we can help them in so many different ways. The first thing is stopping and listening, and really understanding what it is they're trying to accomplish. What is it they value? And then provide that value in a big and meaningful way. For some people, you'll talk to them, and it's just money. Bottom line, it's money. It's just the numbers. That's really the thing that is the most valuable thing that will come out of this transaction, is the net proceeds that they'll receive. Maybe that works as an investment or as an acquisition. Maybe it doesn't. Because you're a real estate broker and you have your license, then you can be there to assist them to list their property and get the highest value, put the most amount of money in their pocket, right? For a lot of people that you'll come across as you start talking to people as an investor, letting people know what you do, and really being in front of sellers who have the type of property that you're looking for, what you'll find is there's things that they value, many people value far more than money. And they measure that value not by money. They measure that value in a lot of different things. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's peace of mind. Maybe it's confidentiality. Confidentiality is actually very huge, and far more valuable to many people than money. Maybe it is someone coming in and taking a heavy weight, heavy load off of their shoulders that's just killing them, actually, in a lot of cases. And taking over this problem and letting them exit, right? And go on to whatever it is that they really should be doing. So when you take the time to hear what it is that they value, what it is that they need, and you actually give them that gift of hearing what it is that they're saying, the course of action or the path ahead is actually going to be so apparent, and it's just going to be a natural progression of getting them from point A to point B, which is where they say they want to go. And it's going to be so clear to you, it's going to be so clear to them that there's no other solutions that will, that they're going to want to take. So, I think of a property seller that I went and spoke with. He had inquired on some internet forum, said he had a property, he wanted to sell it, talked with him. And it was funny, it was actually my assistant who called, and his conversation with her was, well, whatever you do, don't send over any goddamn realtors. Don't send any over goddamn realtors. And then I'm like, hi. And there's a reason he didn't want any realtors over there. He wasn't the type of person. Confidentiality and timing were the two most important things to him. We talked about his house and trust. Trust was the other thing. So he actually had a lot of investors coming through, giving him offers, and they're crocodiles. They really were. This was my first insight into how a lot of investors out there are doing things. So what they didn't know, he was in his late 60s, early 70s. What they didn't know is he'd owned 3 real estate offices in the past. He'd owned an escrow office. He'd done major development in Snohomish County. That's what they didn't know. What they did do was they gave him comps that were over a year old. What they did do is try and justify this low price, and it really was actually the price that it needed to be sold at for someone to make a profit, right? We all know that we're there to make a profit. So does the seller. But when you justify that price by being dishonest and deceptive, they're not going to do a thing with you. Well, I never mentioned the price. I never mentioned, what price I would put an offer in at. Like I said, if I'm going to purchase a property, everybody has to get everything that they want. And so what he did was he said, here's the comps that they gave me. This is really the price I know that you need to buy it at to make a profit. And he said, so if you want it, it's yours. Here's the price. And as we went through the transaction, the 2 things that were important to him is, 1, nobody could know. Nobody could know his house was for sale. The day it closed, he no signs, no mention anywhere on any kind of public social media, nothing published. And then in addition, he needed some extra time to stay there, so he wanted to stay for an additional 60 days. No problem, we accommodated that. And he just wanted to be gone one day, and nobody, just that confidentiality was key for him. And the thing he said to me is, he called me Katerina. He said, Katerina, if you don't make $100,000 off of this property, I'm going to be ashamed of you.
Wow.
So, and the point to all of that is, when the relationship's right, when the negotiation's right, when everything's out on the table, people are going to do what works for them, first of all, right? But then also for the people they trust and the people that they want to do business with. So it comes back to the relationship and negotiation. And then, I asked him, I said, Bill, you're selling this at a discount, and you've got time. Why is it? And he said, you know what? $100,000 is nothing to me. He said, I'm going to sell this at a $100,000 discount, but I'm going to take the proceeds that I've got, and where I'm going, I'm going to make that up in a month and a half.
Wow.
So what is the value, right? What is the value of that 100,000, right? The value of the 100,000 is very different to me than the value is to him.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the value of the confidentiality, of the trust, of the terms, right? That would allow him to do what he needed to do, and having security, knowing that he's dealing with someone who is who's looking for everyone's best interest, right? I think that security probably is a huge value as well, huge part of that, huge part of the equation. And then, in fact, we were talking about, as you're building these relationships, if you're doing it right, So you do those transactions, and then you make sure that everything you say you do, and you make sure that you take it across the finish line, you get the deal closed, and you treat them right from beginning to end. And when that happens, other deals come back to you. So Queen Anne was an acquisition. It was a referral from him. He knew some people that had their house was a problem, and he said, there's nobody else who you can trust the way you can trust this person. She does what she says, and she'll take care of you from beginning to end. So when you have that kind of introduction, am I going to pay the same market price that any investor is going to pay? Yes, right? But there's no other investor that's getting that kind of introduction. Right. So the question is, how are you measuring value, right? So you need to be aware of, how do you measure your value, right? The value for me, and the reason that I'm there in this business transaction, is completely different than the value to them. Mm-hmm. But the value to them is actually the thing that is paramount. And you always want to make sure that you're not judging whether something can or cannot happen, or whether it does or doesn't make sense based on your measure of value. Mm-hmm. It has to be based on their measure of value. So how are you measuring value? Being clear about what is your value, and being clear about what is the value to the others and what are their needs. And give before you receive. My friend Eric Eck, big investor down in the Bay Area, he was talking about value, and he said the way he looks at life is there's a deficit on the books right now. He is so conscientious of the people in his life who've contributed to him and made a meaningful difference for him, or have been pouring into him in ways that will benefit him for the rest of his life. And that was his question: who's been pouring into you in ways that will benefit you for the rest of your life? So if we're looking at giving before we're receiving, one of the key components to that is being aware of who's contributed to us in the first place, and then looking at how we're bringing that paying that forward. So one huge mentor, I'm so fortunate in my life to have met my real estate investment mentor, Greg. And the way that we met is our daughters went to school together. And I remember talking to his wife, Shauna, and we became friends through, going to kids' activities together. And I said, oh, what do you guys do? And she said, oh, well, my husband's a real estate investor. And I said, oh, so am I. And, I'd done rental properties. We'd subdivided 30 acres, we'd done remodels, things like that. But everything I'd done up until that point was very traditional brokerage deals that came from the MLS. Anyway, I thought I was so accomplished. And I remember it's funny, I was talking to, I call him a kid, he's 24. I was talking to this 24-year-old young man, a real estate broker and also an MMA fighter who wants to come onto our firm the other day. And he said something to me that stopped me in my tracks. He said, when I go into the club or the gym, he said, if I am not humbled every day, then I am living in a false reality.
Wow.
That's a 24-year-old, right? I like, whoa. I am humbled right here with you, right? So that's what happened with Greg is one 10-minute conversation with him at the end of the school year party for the kids in 6th grade. They hosted at their house. And he was talking about sharing the stage with Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump, and Tony Robbins, sharing the stage to this stadium of thousands and thousands of people, right? And so am I a real estate investor? Oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. I couldn't, he's like, get out, are you serious? And then talking about how he sees real estate. I think we talked for an hour, and the gift that Greg has is when he's talking to you, you have his undivided attention, and he's focused on you, and he sees what's possible for you and how you can get there. And he does this all through experience of thousands and thousands of units of investing. When he looks at real estate, it was a foreign language to me, his experience and what he does. When I started working with him and coaching with him, I felt like I was in kindergarten. I've been selling real estate, been licensed for 18 years, so at the time it was 15 years. And I realized that was the most humbling experience. I realized I know nothing. It was like, literally, I felt like I was in preschool. And so there's a whole world of real estate, and the world of real estate investments, acquisitions, entrepreneurship that we're going to be learning, and that I'm going to be teaching you guys what I've learned from him. And it's a completely different language, and we're going to start with the basics and grow. Anyway, so that's Greg, and a lot of the information, a lot of what I share with you is really going to be I feel like a little parrot, right? It's the things that I've learned from him that have really worked, and which actually have put together, of the 5 deals we sold last year in 2016, that you saw those at Queen Anne, the day of our party, all of those were influenced by him or purchased through his coaching. So let me see. Let's start with this, the flip, right? We're talking about a straight flip, a 90-day flip. Actually, he teaches a 60-day flip. And there's a whole philosophy and idea of, one, how do you get the deals? What do you have to spend your day doing? What are the actions that you have to take to get you in front of the sellers, to put the deal together? And then once you're there in front of the sellers, what are the numbers that you have to know? What is the information? What's the research you already have to know like the back of your hand, but to get to putting an offer together and actually closing that deal? So in the world of acquisition and finance, he'll tell you there's 3 components. There's 3 things every single day that is that this whole game boils down to. It's product. I'm always a buyer, and I'm always looking for excellent product. Money. I'm always looking for money as cheap as I can possibly find it. And buyers. So I'm looking for clients to assign the deals to, clients to sell the deals to, people to lease option my deals to. Basically, every activity every day boils down to moving towards these 3 things. Every call, every interaction, every inquiry. And it's being clear up front at the beginning of the day, what's my intention? These 3 things are my intention in the world of real estate. And as I keep this intention at the forefront, then every single action, everything I do is moving me towards those. T.S. Eliot said, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. And that's really to the point of, what are you spending your time now doing? Where are the minutes in your day going, right? We've all got 24 hours in a day, and the only difference between our results, the results we have and the results that someone else has, is how we choose to spend that time. Mm-hmm. So it's looking at, where do you have minutes? Where do you have minutes that you're not using, you're not focusing, you're not giving it everything that you have to move forward in the direction that you say you want to move forward in. So pushing our limits. Greg said, at the end of the day, the net results are a function of not only what you did, but the awareness of why you did it. So there's 3 things we're looking for: product, money, and buyers. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of paper, you're going to take whatever system that you use, and you're going to create 3 columns. And the first column is going to be potential sellers or property owners. The second is potential investors, money. And the third is potential buyers. And then you're going to take each one of those columns, and below that heading, you're going to create 2 columns. You're going to have do, and you're going to have call. So potential sellers, do, call. Investors or money, do, call. Buyers, do, call. And sellers, you're going to have seller calls. What would you sell your property? Would you sell your property to me at these prices and at these terms? At this price and these terms. Investors, do you have any more capital that you'd like to invest at 6% secured by real estate? Buyers, if I could deliver this product to you at $2 million, are you a buyer for this product at this location, with this rent roll, with this condo conversion potential? Are you a buyer for this product if I can deliver it to you at $2 million? Those were the questions that Greg gave me to ask in each one of these columns every single day. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to take this list, and these are the things that you're going to focus on every day when it comes to anything that you're doing in the world of real estate. This is going to work for you both on the retail side as well as the investment side. So as you fill up these lists, then this is how you're going to put these deals together. By filling up these lists, filling up the pipeline, and talking to people, asking these questions, and having these questions answered. So the first thing in buying your flip, the short-term flip like we're talking about, is education of your marketplace, knowing what the sold comps are, knowing exactly. So you're gonna start in a very specific geographic area, and the reason for that is, and this is a little bit of a mind shift. As a real estate broker, I would go wherever there was a seller that needed me to list their property. And given the resources and the tools that we have with the MLS and what we have available to us as realtors or as real estate brokers, we can go in and we can establish value for people, and we have a lot available to us to understand what the comps are. However, when it comes to acquiring properties like we're talking about, we're going to start in this very particular geographic area because we need to know that area so well. We need to know what the zoning is. We need to know what the comprehensive plan is. What is the land now, and what could it be, and in what direction is the local jurisdiction going? We need to know everything about that area so intimately that we can know value intuitively. It's not that we get to go meet the property owner and then say, wait, I'll be back. I'm going to go pull some comps and come tell you what your property's worth, right? If that's where you're at, you've lost the game. You need to be able to walk into a meeting with a seller, with a property owner who's responded to one of your letters and said, yes, I want to talk to you. I want to sell my property to you. I like what you had to say. Come take a look at what I've got. That's where the relationship begins. That's where the negotiation begins. That's where finding out what they want begins. You have to already know when they tell you what they want, whether that's actually going to be a fit for you. You can't excuse yourself at that point and start going and doing research and having it all boil down to dollars, right? You'll just lose everything that you've created. So knowing your property intimately. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a map. You're going to draw a geographic area of where you want to work. It's going to be a small area. You're going to go to the local jurisdiction, city or county, find out who it is. You're going to find out what the comprehensive plan is for that area. You're going to find out what are the different zonings that are in that area. And you'll find you're looking at real estate completely differently than, you can hear it already, than just going and analyzing market value for someone in an area. You're going to know what is this dirt and what can be created here. And that's really if you don't have that research already done, if you don't already know that information, you're you need to have that under your tool. You need to have that in your arsenal, right? So that you can instill confidence. They understand your competence, and they know that you're the person who they can look at as a resource and answer all these questions. Let's see. So the next thing that I would say is knowing your market, and then finding the opportunities. And how do you find those opportunities? There's a lot of different ways to find them. Writing letters, looking on Zillow, Make Me Move, looking on Craigslist, for sale by owner. The most effective way that we have found is writing letters. And these are not just, they're not the realtor postcards. They're not the mass-produced letters, hey, I want to buy your home. This is a letter, hey, hello, my name's Katrina. I love your house. I've been by it. I've looked at it. I understand there's not a for sale sign in the yard. I realize that you don't have a for sale sign out front, but boy, I'd love the opportunity to purchase this home from you. If you have any interest at all in selling your home, would you give me a call? I won't waste your time. I'm very nice to talk to. I'm a licensed real estate broker. I'm not looking for a listing. I'm looking for a property. I'm looking for a property to invest in, or I'm looking for a property for my family. I'm looking for. I've got a 2- and a 4-year-old that I'm going to be putting through college someday, and that's why I'm investing. That's why I want to buy your house. Would you please give me a call? Whatever you're communicating who you are and why you're interested in their property in a way that they can relate to you. Those letters have been irreplaceable, because the people who have called us have already connected with us on some level, and they're responding to how we've communicated who we are. And in fact, we were just in Kirkland last week. Someone kept our letter for 2 years and said, they're east of Market, right in the heart of where we want to be. And hey, I don't know if you're still looking to buy a property, but the time's right for us now. Will you come by? Absolutely. Those are the most valuable calls that we ever get. They've got a property for sale and nobody else knows about it. And the relationship is important to them. The next best way, and actually I think this is beginning to overtake those letters simply because our market is, because of the state of our market. And that's actually going out and meeting people face to face, knocking on doors, talking to people in the neighborhoods where you want to work, getting in front of them, connecting with them, and asking them, do they want to sell? Is there anyone in the area that they know that wants to sell? But really, in addition to the area that wants to sell, connecting with people as you're driving through, there's things that you're looking for on properties that are going to be a good fit for you. And when you see one of those, you get out and you go knock on the door. And the deals that are coming together now, it seems, are, the letters are great, but I think these are where you're really uncovering the real opportunity, is just getting in front of them face to face. So that's a little bit about how you find them, the mindset, right? The negotiation, and then there's the numbers. How do you put together a transaction? What's the criteria for putting together a transaction that's going to pencil out and be profitable and worth doing? And so the first thing is knowing your market. The second thing is, now you're meeting the seller, right? Now you're face to face and you're in their house, or you're walking up to their house and noticing, what are the things that you notice? It's becoming educated in what does it take to have this house be in a condition that you're going to be able to turn it around and market it and sell it for a price price is going to turn a profit. And so you're looking, as you're walking up, you're looking at the nature of the house. What is the siding? You know, is there oil tanks? What does the roof look like? Is it waving at you, right? And as you go into the house, really paying attention to, you know, are there stupid additions, drop ceilings, you know, funky floor plans, Home Depot, home seller additions, right? Things that just don't even make sense. What we're looking for is as we're looking for properties that are, there's a time and a place for the properties that are, you know, gut jobs, right? But if we're talking the 60 to 90 day flip, we're looking for straight lines. Original. It hasn't been, you know, it hasn't had a lot of funky things that have happened to it. You know, it needs some carpet, it needs some paint. We can deal with, you know, some new cabinets, new countertops. We can get all of that done. If there's a problem with the foundation, if there's problems with the roof, if there's, you know, like I said, funky floor plans and layouts that you're going to have to remediate, if there's old electrical panels, if there's old plumbing, low water pressure, right? These are all things that are very expensive to fix when you start getting into gutting, electrical, plumbing, you know, having to replace a whole kitchen, a whole bathroom. That's when you're going to find yourself standing in the line at the permit counter, getting new plans drawn up. We can paint a house, we can clean up a yard, sand down the hardwoods, you know, make it look pretty. That's what we can accomplish if we're looking at numbers that work for a 60 to 90 day flip. The other reason, and the reason we say 60 to 90 days, and Greg will tell you this, is because you can really accurately predict where the market's going in 60 to 90 days, but a year from now, we've got no idea. We've got no idea. So analyzing those numbers is actually a completely different ballgame. So now you're in the front door. You understand. You have an idea of things that need to be done. You know what costs are. So that's another piece. You've got to know your market. You've got to know what costs are. You now know what costs are. So you're now talking with the seller, and you've got an idea of once they say the pricing that they're looking for, you're in your head. You're going to have to be able to do these numbers, right? So say they're looking for $300,000. Well, you have to be able to answer, what price do I need to have as an after repair value for this $300,000 to work? So you need to be able to add up. Okay, well, I think I'm going to have about $10,000 of remodeling costs. Mm-hmm. I know that the first thing that that this criterion will tell you to add on is if it's $300,000, the first thing you add on is your profit margin, and then risk, right? Risk mitigation for risk. So Greg will tell you that's 30%. And so for $300,000, you're looking at a $90,000 margin or risk mitigation. And so you're already at $390,000. Then you've got your closing cost to buy, holding costs. If we're a 60-day flip, then that's going to be about $5,000. If you got $10,000 in remodeling costs, you know that you're going to need to sell. If you're working backwards, you know that you're going to need to sell this for about $450,000 after taking 10% of selling costs off. So that's that 30% profit margin, the remodeling costs, the holding costs, the cost to buy, and the selling costs will put you at, you can pay $300,000 for this property. So honestly, we're about 15% is the best profit margin we've done on a 60 to 90 day flip. And so 30% may seem like a lot. One of the things I learned in Queen Anne is 30% isn't necessarily a lot. The margins there, not because I want to get rich off them. The margins there is because of what's beyond my control. Is there for the safety. If everything goes wrong, can I still move forward in this project? Is it still something that I can accomplish? And the other thing I've learned is it never costs less than what I think it's going to cost. It has never cost less than what I think it's going to cost. And as I'm doing more and more of these, I'm getting more and more accurate. But you know what I think it's going to cost twice as much, and then add some. Has been my experience.
Yeah.
So especially the newer that you are, or the fewer of these that you've done, 30% is probably more like reality.
That's the average.
Yeah, to even turn to even make it something that's doable.
Okay.
You know, as you do more, you can fine tune your numbers. So the Finn Hill property that we're talking about, this is a rambler on Finn Hill in Kirkland. And we had sent a letter out. We got the call from the sellers, hey, come by and take a look. You know, and there's so many components to this transaction or to this deal. We were out there when it was the storm of the century. I don't know if it was the century, but this was 2015. This was the November of 2015, and power lines were down, trees were down, power was out for, I think, a week in some areas. And as we're driving to their house, you know, the news is like, stay home. As we're driving to their house, no way, literally driving down 405, and trees are coming down.
Oh my goodness.
We're watching these trees come down. We had to take alternate routes because we're driving down a road, and there's a thing that says road closed. I'm like, Rick, just go. We can drive around that stuff. It's no big deal. And so we drive around, and we get just around the corner, and there's these live power lines, and it's like, oh my gosh, can we make it out of here? As we back up and get out of there. Anyway, we drive past their house. And they called, are you sure you still want to come? And you can tell they're a little nervous. They live in the neighborhood. This is a second home for them. And they want to meet with us. And so, yes, absolutely, we'll be there. And we drive past the house. We're about 10 minutes early. And I'm like, wow, it's such a cute place. You drive past, it's just a cute little picture rambler from the outside. Nothing's wrong with it. And we come back 5 minutes later, and a tree has come down across the roof.
Oh my gosh.
So power's out, and actually, I'm sorry, the tree hadn't come down yet. There were trees in the neighborhood that were down. And so we get in there, the power's out, and they're so thankful that we're there. And we find out that this is a property that they have put their heart into. They thought they were going to rehab it themselves. They'd owned it as a rental property for years and years and years, and decided they want to fix it up to sell. Well, these guys are meticulous. Everything they do is meticulous. And they've put a year, it sounds like, I think they'd put about a year into just getting it to the point where it was, and it was still pretty much gutted. The kitchen was gutted, the bathrooms were gutted, the hardwood floors had been sanded. They had a lot of the things that needed on site, that needed to be there, the materials to finish the job, but they had lost steam, and they just wanted out. They were just done with the project. And they just wanted somebody to come in and take this off their shoulders. They'd talked to another investor. They had a good idea of market value. They understood that, there needed to be some profit in there for an investor to come in and take this off their hands. And they wanted a quick closing, and they wanted all cash. And I have to tell you, the thing that really had this transaction come together and had them choose us in purchasing this property, because in this market, it's going to be rare if you're the only person putting an offer in. The thing that had them choose us was doing what we said we were going to do, showing up no matter what for that appointment, and then listening to them. Really understanding, asking questions, being interested in, this house, being interested in their experience with this house. What did they do to it? They had really put their heart into everything that they had selected, the materials that were on site, the work that had been done. They had literally rebuilt the furnace. They had ordered all of the parts for the guts and the computer part of this furnace. And that's how much they had put their time, effort, energy, and their heart into this project. And they wanted somebody to purchase this that they felt good about. And And like I said, they knew there was a profit that had to be made for everyone to have this happen. But that's really the thing.
Hey, quiet. Sorry. The Labradoodle's going crazy.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So
We're interrupting our meeting.
I've got a golden doodle.
Okay.
So we all have our monsters, right?
Yes.
So looking at that one, we had an acquisition price of $316. This didn't quite fit within the criterion of that Greg teaches, the 30% profit margin, but we put in 10% simply because that was actually the bottom line of what we were going to end up acquiring this at. So that was $30,000. The cost to buy and holding costs was $14,500. The remodeling costs were about $35,000. I had actually budgeted closer to $25,000, but when all was done and said, it was about $35,000. Holding costs were $9,400, and then selling costs were $28,000. The value that I thought we would get was $425,000. Given the market, and when we hit the market, the multiple offers that we were able to procure, we ended up selling at $436,500. So when it comes down to these numbers, this is really the easy stuff, right? It's knowing what repairs cost, it's knowing your market, it's negotiation, it's creating relationships with sellers, it's understanding what they value. Those are the things, those are the intangibles that really have to be there to have these deals come together. And then the numbers are really pretty much the easy part, is penciling those out. So what you're looking for is you're looking at the acquisition cost. How much is the home listed for, or how much is it that the property owner is willing to sell it for? Whatever that is, $300,000 is the example we're using. You want to add 30% on top of that. So if they say they want $300,000, then you know you're starting at $390,000. Then you have to add on your closing costs to buy and your holding costs. You have to add on your remodeling costs. And you have to figure 10% in selling costs. And if you know that you can sell that property all day long, or in the example we used $450,000, then it's a go. Then it's something that you can get in there, get the work done, carpet, paint, hardwoods, clean up the yard, take the trash out, and get it fixed up in a 30-day turnaround, so you have it on the market, you're under contract, and you're closing 30 days later, then that's the deal all day long. Mm-hmm. Now, you're going to come across a lot of properties that are not going to fit this criterion, and then we have to look at a completely different set of numbers. If we're looking at anything that's going to take more than 60, 90 days max to turn around, these numbers aren't what we're looking at. And the other thing that would actually...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it wise to do investments that are over 90 days?
Queen Anne was 1.5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It just really depends. We've got a property that we purchased through a letter in Kirkland. We call it Villemere. And that is one house, but it sits on a lot that is big enough to break into two. So we're going to subdivide that.
Okay.
In addition, and so we've been in that one for 1.5 years, maybe 1.5 years. We've got preliminary. We've got the preliminary meeting done with the city. We understand what needs to be done, and we've got another 6 months to finish that up, subdividing it. What's happened since then is we found an adjacent property owner to us who's actually, Rick just went over and met with him in Wenatchee yesterday, and he said, yeah, you know what, you caught me right at the right time, I may consider selling. And if he does that, we could actually assemble it and take that little one house that we were thinking we could put into 2 lots, tear that house down, build 2 new houses, or sell off the 2 lots. We're now looking at something that has been another existing house and could potentially get another 2 or 3 lots.
Wow.
So is that worth
yes.
something longer than 60 to 90 days?
Absolutely.
We think so.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the risk is when it's longer than 60 to 90 days, what's going to happen with the market? We've been really lucky because all the market's done is appreciate. right, over the past 2 years.
Yes.
But what's going to happen a year from now? What's going to happen from 6 months from now? There's nobody out there right now that's willing to say with any certainty, this is what's going to happen. There's no economists, there's no forecasters that are offering any certainty as to what's going to happen.
Okay.
So it's more risky. And that's why I said the numbers are completely different and the analysis, everything about it is completely different. These only apply to something that's 60 to 90 days.
Okay.
And only cosmetic, right?
Yes, definitely.
What's that?
I said an only cosmetic, right?
Only
gotta be-
cosmetic.
you gotta be
Right.
sure,
Nothing that's going to put you at the permit counter.
Right.
Nothing that's going to put you at the permit. Now, can you go get permits? Can you get subject to field inspection for changing out some lights or changing out some, some fixtures, any trim? Yeah, you can, and that's easy. Anything that's subject to field inspections, no big deal. You just go in, you let them know what you're going to do. They don't need any of the drawings. They don't need anything comprehensive. They just send an inspector out to look at the work that was done. That's fine. But anything that's going to require drawings and anything more than that, no, it does not fit within these criterion.
Okay.
I would say that those are the most important things. So if you, like I said at the beginning, if I can have you walk away from this call, it's with remembering we're not crocodiles.
Got it.
Give before you receive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And keeping these things in mind, this is the heart of negotiation. This is the heart of creating, and negotiation is nothing more than relationship.
Mhm.
Nothing more than relationship. So there's three action items to take away from today that we will, in 2 weeks on Monday, review. So the first thing is create your chart or your list with the 3 columns: sellers, money, and buyers. Second thing is you're going to write down 10 names in each column. If you don't already have 10 names, get 10 names. But I almost guarantee every one of you already has 10 names for each column. And if you need some help thinking about it, send me an email and let me know, and we'll go through some places where you might already have those names. And then the third thing is find a property and pencil the numbers using the criterion that we discussed today. So you may go to the MLS and look for properties there, and that's kind of the knee-jerk reaction of us as real estate brokers. It's rare, very rare, to find something in the MLS that's going to match this criteria. So what you'll do is, look at any other properties that maybe you know of, right, in an area that you're interested in where the grass is up to the second row of siding and it looks like it's got some deferred maintenance, and it just is a home that needs some care. And look at and pull the information. You know how to pull information from Realist. Find out what you think the after repair value is and work it backwards to see what it is that you'd need to have your acquisition price be at. So create your chart or your list of the 3 things: sellers, money, and buyers. Write down 10 names in each column and pencil a property. That's it. So then the follow-up to this is, I'm looking right now, is going to be not next Monday, but the following Monday. So that is the 23rd, same time, same place. And bring those 3 things with you.
Okay.
got it. Yay.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for your time.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Katrina.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Go get them.
See you soon.